For all your t-shirt needs, check out TeePublic's Killer Selection. Follow the link in the description. Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and today I want to talk to you guys about 1980s Motel Hell. Now, this is partially going to be a review of the movie as well as a review of this collector's edition Blu-ray release from the folks over at Scream Factory. And I have to give a huge shout out to my buddy Orc, who bought me this Blu-ray off of my Amazon wish list back last Christmas. So thank you, Orc. I appreciate it. And Motel Hell is about a farmer and motel owner by the name of Farmer Vincent, who along with his sister Ida, they own the Motel Hello, a quaint little motel out in the countryside. And it's partially a motel, but it's also a slaughterhouse. What a unique combination. But Farmer Vincent is famous in that area for his hickory smoked meat, his 100% hickory smoked meat. There's no preservatives added. It's just good, pure meat. However, what he neglects to reveal to his customers is that this hickory smoked meat is actually 100% human. And he and his sister Ida, they pick up transients and passers through, and they bury them up to their neck in Farmer Vincent's secret garden. They cut their vocal cords, so all they can do is gurgle and hiss, and they feed them corn as if they're livestock, and then eventually they put the people down, and those people end up in the hickory smoked meat that Farmer Vincent is famous for. It's a whole circle of life. And when most people think of Motel Hell, I think they immediately think of this film as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of clone. And although there's some cannibalism elements that both of these films share, of course, Motel Hell ends on a very famous chainsaw duel in which Farmer Vincent is wearing a pig's head during the duel, as you can see there in the cover art for Motel Hell. And both films are, sort of horror comedies, kind of, dark comedies, whereas in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the comedy was really sort of overlooked by how, raw and ferocious that movie was. In Motel Hell, the comedy is definitely takes center stage, I think, in Motel Hell, ahead of the horror elements. But also Motel Hell just has this really weird atmosphere, this really odd sort of tone about the movie. It's kind of it's psychedelic in some instances. It's that good old fashioned kind of hillbilly horror. In other instances, it's got this very sort of Southern Gothic feel about it, but it's just a very oddball kind of movie. And that is, I think, Motel Hell's greatest strength and kind of its greatest weakness, and why Motel Hell has not gotten the recognition of, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre or a lot of other sort of 70s grindhouse kind of exploitation movies. Which is a shame, because I like Motel Hell quite a bit for just how oddball it is. And at the center of Motel Hell are the performances of Roy Calhoun as Farmer Vincent and, oh goodness, what is her name? Nancy Parsons as Ida, his sister. And particularly the performance of Nancy Parsons is something that I've always adored with this movie. She comes off at some moments in the film very sort of childlike. She's got those pigtails on either side of her head. She wears overalls. She's just kind of bouncing around and, happy-go-lucky. And then in other instances, she's very sadistic and very cunning and very mean. And you discover that she's really kind of the sickest character in this movie, but I've always really liked her performance in Motel Hell. Now, Rory Calhoun is just, he's Rory Calhoun. He's very sort of, he's that old school cowboy. He's got that great voice. He's very laid back, but when the time calls for it, he's not above putting on a hog's head and going after people with a chainsaw, and putting them in his hickory smoked beef. And I've always really enjoyed Motel Hell. This was one of those movies that was just like, seems like it was constantly on TV. It was on USA Up All Night or on Monster Vision or on, TBS at, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I would always tune in and watch it. And it just had, again, it just had this really oddball sensibility about it, where it had the horror elements, but I wouldn't say it's a full-blown horror movie. It certainly had the comedic elements, but it's not a really, a comedy. It's kind of satirical. But it just, like I said, just has this very oddball tone and this sort of Southern Gothic kind of feel about it that really makes the movie charming, I think. It's a really unique movie in that pantheon of, 70s exploitation, grindhouse, the drive-in circuit kind of movies. And particularly, the hillbilly horror, the backwoods sort of horror movies. But I've always admired the fact that it's kind of not, you can't easily place this, I think, in a genre. Of course, it falls into horror, but it's really more of a horror comedy. And that's one of the things I've always really enjoyed about Motel Hell. This is a really nice Blu-ray release for the film. Scream Factory released this a couple of years ago. They really rolled out the red carpet for Motel Hell. It's a 2-disc Blu-ray and DVD collector's edition. We get the newly commissioned artwork there. Inside, you've got the Blu-ray and the DVD. The Blu-ray is in my Blu-ray player right now. But we have the reversible sleeve with the original artwork for the film, which, of course, there's Farmer Vincent, there's Ida, there's those heads buried in the... And what an odd... Again, this just lends to the oddball appeal of the movie, how they treat these people that they capture like livestock, but they bury them up to their heads in the secret garden, and they cut their vocal cords. And the sound that they all make, this awful gurgling, hissing, rasping kind of sound, is just kind of... It's really nasty. It's really odd. And how Farmer Vincent and Ida put them down when it's time for them to be harvested, I guess, or whatever, led to the slaughter, is really just odd. That's just odd, too. Also, John Ratzenberger from Cheers is one of the victims in this movie. Really good cast all around. The acting is great. Again, Rory Calhoun, Nancy Parsons, fantastic jobs. Paul Link, who plays Rory Calhoun, or Farmer Vincent's like brother in the film. He's the local kind of bumbling cop. He's really good in the film. Nina Axelrod, who plays sort of the love interest. She's very easy on the eyes. And we get a cameo from the one and only Wolfman Jack in this movie. And Motel Hell also has one of the greatest taglines in horror history. It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. Yeah. This is a really fun movie. If you guys have not seen Motel Hell, by all means, go out and watch Motel Hell. This Blu-ray would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of Motel Hell, you definitely want to look into picking up this Blu-ray if you haven't already. The picture quality and the sound quality are both pretty good as far as extras are concerned. We have It Takes All Kinds, the making of Motel Hell. It's 24 minutes and 33 seconds in length. It includes interviews with writer-producer Robert Jaffe, writer-producer Stephen Charles Jaffe, director Kevin Connor, and actor Mark Silver. The Jaffes discuss the impetus for Motel Hell, which included their own secret garden and violent mud wars that they engaged in as kids with the other kids in the neighborhood. Their love for horror movies and monster movies was also a big help them in forming Motel Hell. They discussed developing the screenplay and wanting the film to have a British sense of humor. Enter Kevin Connor, the director, who was British. Connor discusses coming to the U.S. from Britain, hoping to find work and eventually getting hired to direct Motel Hell. I just bit my tongue. It was very painful. Connor discusses first reading the screenplay, which the original screenplay opened with, quote unquote, a fat woman on a bed with an adult toy and a pig. And he thought, I've come all this way to work, and this is the work that I get. The Jaffies discuss UA wanting to make the film a straight up slasher movie instead of a horror comedy, that UA did not jibe with the humor in the film. They discuss casting the film, initially going after Harry Dean Stanton to play former Vincent. They discuss the shooting locations, the rattlesnakes, the smell of the slaughterhouse because they used real dead pigs in the slaughterhouse. Connor discusses hiring a man with a tracheotomy to do all the gurgling and hissing for the planted people. Nasty. They discuss the release of the film, its reception, and more. Really nice, in-depth making of for Motel Hell. Next up, we have Shooting Old School with Thomas Del Ruth. It's 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Mr. Del Ruth discusses getting hired to shoot Motel Hell and working with director Kevin Connor. He discusses working with Roy Calhoun, the difficulty of orchestrating and shooting the chainsaw fight at the end of the film. Mr. Del Ruth also discusses the film's cult status. Very nice interview with Mr. Del Ruth. Next up, we have Ida Be Thy Name, The Frightful Females of Fear. It's 18 minutes and 9 seconds. It includes interviews with scream queens, film critics, and film historians in which they discuss the elements that make a good female villain, particularly Ida from Motel Hell, as well as Mrs. Voorhees, Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct, Barbara Steele, Carrie, and others. Very nice, insightful featurette there. Next up, we have From Glamour to Gore, Roseanne Caton remembers Motel Hell. It's 11 minutes and 28 seconds in length. Miss Caton discusses getting into show business as a child, attending the famed School for the Performing Arts in New York, posing for Playboy, working on Motel Hell, and her love of horror. She discusses being buried up to her neck in the film and working with Rory Calhoun and Nancy Parsons and how much she loved making Motel Hell. Very nice interview with Miss Caton. Next up, we have another head on the chopping block, an interview with Paul Link. It's 14 minutes and 52 seconds in length. Mr. Link discusses his role in the film being written for him because he was a friend with the Jaffies. He discusses the shooting locations, the humor in the film being cut down because his character was in the screenplay the most comedic, but a lot of it was cut out because UA wanted to make the movie more of a straightforward slasher movie. He discusses working with Rory Calhoun and Nancy Parsons. He discusses the chainsaw fight, which took 5 12-hour days of shooting to complete. He discusses how fun that was, although by day 3, all the dead pigs in the slaughterhouse got a bit ripe. And that was not so pleasant. Mr. Link discusses his career post Motel Hell and more. Very nice interview with Mr. Link. We get a theatrical trailer for the film, and we also get an audio commentary with director Kevin Connor, moderated by filmmaker Dave Parker. I watched the entire film with this commentary. Very entertaining, very insightful commentary from Mr. Connor, along with Dave Parker. Really fun commentary for Motel Hell. This is a very nice Blu-ray release for Motel Hell. Again, if you've not seen Motel Hell, by all means, go out and check out Motel Hell. This Blu-ray would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of Motel Hell and you don't already own this Blu-ray, definitely look into picking it up. Again, huge shout out to my buddy Ork, who picked up this Blu-ray for me off of my Amazon wish list this past Christmas. Thanks. I really appreciate it. If you've seen Motel Hell, please let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Join the A Buck a Month Club and help support my channel on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons, Turi Delamore, Richard Mead, Jeremiah Lambert, Johnny Yeager, Orc145626, Derek Jana, Farron Sutton, and Robert Sobel. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.